Awesome. Well, welcome everybody. My name is Anita van Rooyen. I'm a confidence coach and a human behaviour expert. So what does that even mean? It means that for the last, 6 or 8 years, I have been studying human behaviour, why we do the random weird stuff that we do, and realising more and more that the random stuff that we do, like nothing at all, is random. There is a meaning and a reason behind absolutely everything we do. So welcome to you at all different times of the morning, afternoon, evening. I feel like it's, what was that movie? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. To all of you, and thank you so much for being here. I run Confidence Hackers out of Melbourne here in Australia, helping students through student accommodation properties, universities, student organisations, to help them with mental well-being, basically. Except I never use the words mental well-being because, as you guys would know, for students, those words are super duper scary, way off beam, and frighten a lot of students, especially a lot of international students, but I think humans in general. Yeah, who else here kind of feels that mental health is a bit of a scary topic to talk about? Yeah, it's a scary sort of thing, right? And so I do things in sort of sneaky ways. So for a lot of, let's say, pre-COVID times, let's talk about that. I was doing a lot of work with helping students in areas that looked on the outside like they were job readiness skills, but if you looked a little deeper and scratched under the surface, they were mental well-being things. So things like networking skills, hiding how to make friends and how to beat loneliness, because obviously loneliness is a very big challenge for a lot of us, and especially for international students, I think anywhere in the world. So kind of hiding, I called it Operation Hide the Veggies, the same way, you know, your mum would grate carrots and put them into all sorts of delicious things so that you wouldn't necessarily know that they were there, but they were always there. All that goodness was in there. So welcome to managing extreme emotions. It is just, we've just had Easter, and I kind of like a bit of a silly nonsense with Easter and extreme kind of things. And it reminded me also that, you know, eggs seem to be very, well, they're strong, but they're also really kind of delicate as well. And that's a lot like our emotions. You know, we can look like, you know, you can have somebody who on the outside looks like they're really tough, but on the inside is really, really struggling. Anybody know somebody like that, maybe even themselves? Yeah, exactly. So what's happening at the moment with the world of COVID that we're now living in is that emotions are getting magnified as they're getting compressed. So it sort of is a bit of this oxymoron of things are getting compressed, our world is getting compressed, but while that's compressing things, it's actually magnifying emotions at the same time. So whatever people, and this is not just students, this is all of us, when students and when people are having whatever challenges they were having pre-COVID, now this time has magnified all of those. So if people were having struggles with loneliness, that has obviously the isolation factor now has really magnified that for a lot of people. If people were struggling with fear, that's magnified that as well. Whatever it was that people were struggling with, it's compressed it and magnified it. So I have a little friend here. He's my little bunny rabbit. And it's really funny because I tried blowing up one of these before and I put one breath too much in it. And it just reminded me of exactly what's going on with our emotions because, you know, especially for young people, we're trying to stuff more and more and more inside. We've got less opportunities to burn out and burn off some of these emotions with exercise or with running around or with hanging with our mates or doing all of these normal kind of things that we do. And it means that all of these emotions have got time to just float around and around and around in our bunny-eared heads. And that becomes really problematic, because I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna see if I can do this, because the more you squeeze it, things start going weird. Things start going really, really weird, and then this is what happens. Yeah. And that's what happens. Sorry for in your ear then, Bronwyn. I hope that wasn't too loud. What happens is we end up with this, yeah? And this is the result of, you know, students and people making permanent decisions to temporary problems. And that's where, you know, I think where our next pandemic is going to be. It's in that space of mental well-being, where students don't have the skills, don't have the ability to be able to manage their emotions, and these emotions that are just getting bigger and bigger and bigger as our lives get more and more and more compressed. Does that sound about right from where you guys are all sitting at the moment? Yeah, I'm getting some nods. The faces, oh look, and a thumbs up. Oh, and 2 thumbs up, thank you. That's really helpful. So I'd like, oh look, oh God, I've got a whole plethora of thumbs up. Thank you, that's fantastic. So I'd like you guys to have a think for a moment about, in the last 24 hours, what were the emotions that you have felt? And I'd like you just to have a think about how many there were in the last 24 hours. Just have a think. If you want to write them all in, do that. If you just want to give me a number and be a little more secret, that's okay. Just have a think about, in the last 24 hours, what were the emotions that you recognize that you felt? And I'll give you some hold music while you do that, some jazz hands. Da da da, da da. It's really interesting having to think back over the last 24 hours. What were the emotions? Was there many of them? Were there not many of them? Stress, anxiety, fear of the unknown. When will this end? Yeah, really, really normal questions right now. Lots, mainly feeling overwhelmed and uncertainty. Yeah. Isolated, hopeless, worried, peace, a bit of anxiety, accomplishment, hunger. Oh yeah, me too. And missing people. So many, from happiness to anger, frustration. Stress, dealing with other people's emotion, helpless. Yeah. And because you guys are all in this position of having to manage your own stuff, as well as this extra layer of having to manage everybody else's stuff as well. What else we got here? Exhaustion, fear, relief, panic, gratefulness, frustration. Wow, talk about the whole range, a huge gamut of different emotions that we're all going through. And oftentimes like this, changing like this from moment to moment to moment. And it's really interesting, because I'd love you to have a think for a second about how many emotions, because most of you have mentioned kind of 3, maybe 5, some of you 6. And a lot of us go through our lives kind of recognizing about 3 or 4. So you guys are already like a step ahead, because you have a think about it. Somebody asks you, so how you doing? What's the answer that you give? What's the standard answer?
Fine.
Good, fine, I'm well. Yeah, good, good, I'm good. And it's one of the, you know, it's one of those things where we kind of have these standard answers. And Look, I remember years and years ago when I was massively depressed in a very, very unhappy marriage, and it didn't matter how depressed and how awful and how terrible and how much in despair I felt. Somebody would say, "How you doing?" "Yeah, good." "Yeah, good." Faking it, totally faking it, hoping that nobody would even notice. And so a lot of us go through our lives using, you know, these three kind of emotions, and I think about them as like three notes on a trumpet, that you can only play three notes on a trumpet, you know, good, okay, shit. Yeah. Oh, or busy. Oh, I'm busy. Oh yeah, I'm so busy. And so, you know, when we're only using these three different emotions, it means that we don't have any richness to our lives and to ourselves. And it means that then even expressing these bigger emotions becomes really challenging. So I'd like you guys to have a think for a second about how many emotions that you think that there are out there without Googling it. I'll give you a multiple choice, 4 different answers. 100, 1,000, 5,000, or 10,000. Type in your answers. 100, 100, 1,000, 5,000, or 10,000. 5,000, 10,000, 10,000, 100, 5,000, 1,000, 10,000, 1,000. I love this because you guys are all over the place. 1,000, 100. This is awesome. I'm going to do the drum roll. And the answer is 5,000. Got a couple of woohoos here. 5,000 different emotions that there are in us. And yet for most of us, we'll use like a half a dozen, and some of us will use, you know, the three notes of good, okay, bad, shit, yeah? And what that means is that it compresses our experience of life as well. And because big emotions are great and they're useful as well. So who's ever heard this statement before? And I'd love for you guys to tell me the last word of it. Big boys don't cry, 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 cry. Yes, big boys don't cry. There are a couple of big boys here. Big boys, do you cry? Not publicly. Of course, says Sam, of course. And you know, it's one of those things that it becomes like it becomes shameful to admit that we cry, but all of us cry. There are times when all of us feel overwhelmed, feel stressed or frustrated, or in such a condition that the only thing that we can do is cry. Sometimes that's sadness, sometimes that is from fear. I know for me, when I was a kid, and if I was incredibly angry, the only thing that I knew how to do was just cry. Because what are some of the other things that we're told? You know, big boys don't cry. What are some of the other things that we're told are not good and, you know, no good for us to do? It might be that, you know, we should be seen and not heard. Big boys don't cry. It's a sign of weakness. Yeah. No crocodile tears. Yeah. And you know what? Sometimes crocodile tears are real tears, aren't they? Yeah. Sometimes they're not crocodile tears. Nice one. Women are aggressive, not assertive. Yeah, thanks very much for that one. No, not true. We can be absolutely assertive. Don't lose your temper. Oh, yes. How many of us got told not to lose our temper before? That, you know, all of these emotions that we feel, that we were not allowed to feel them. So all of these emotions that we had ended up being denied. And, you know, big emotions when you're a little kid, if any emotion becomes a big emotion, and that even as you grow older, sometimes you don't grow out of that. You know, big emotions are still big emotions. Yeah. Who else has big emotions here sometimes? Yeah, not all the time, but sometimes we do, right? Yeah. And so, you know, like there's what's some of the other ones, you know, oh, don't act like a girl. Oh, don't be such a girl. Oh, don't be such a girl. If, you know, if a guy is upset about something. Or what are some other ones that we've got here? What about you have to be a good girl? Ugh. Awful, 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 awful. And you know what? We probably end up saying it to our kids as well. Those that have got kids, we end up, you know, putting this onto them as well. These feelings that, you know, we had to contain our emotions as well. So, are there such things as bad emotions? That's the question. Are there bad emotions? If there are, what? Let me know what emotions are bad emotions. I can see a lot of thinking faces here. This is terrific. The ones that consume you. Aggression, physical aggression. Anger. I think it's not about bad emotions, but how you express it. Interesting, Wilmy. No bad emotions, just bad enactment of those emotions, such as jealousy. It's not a bad emotion, but it's how you show it. Yeah. Any other bad emotions or negative emotions? What about negative emotions? What are some other negative emotions? Do I need to dance for you? Hate, frustration, fear, maybe negative emotions. Oh, will be those that don't serve you well. Yeah, pessimism, ones that make you dislike yourself, uncertainty. You guys are rocking this. Anger, it's really interesting. The people that have said that there are no such thing as bad emotions, ding, 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 you get the gold star today. There are no bad emotions. Emotions are emotions are emotions. And emotions are here to help us understand more about what's going on in the outside world and how it reflects in us. So things like anger, not a bad emotion, nothing wrong with anger. Anger is there. It oftentimes lets us know that somebody has crossed one of our boundaries. How useful is that to know? When we know that somebody has crossed our boundaries, and that gives us a physical response of anger, of frustration, then all of these emotions are here to give us signposts of what's going on in the world around us and how that's reflecting in us as well. So how do we use that then? Because when we allow, and when these emotions get out of control and get bigger and get bigger and get bigger, and the little bunny head turns into a big head and it turns into big problems. Oh, hello, Jules' cat. Then this is where we start really having a lot of problems. And this is I think the next challenge for us as people who are looking after students. How do we help them with understanding their big emotions when all of their life, because I think all of us have been in this space where our parents have been, you can't show that emotion, you can't be angry, you can't be this, good girls don't do this, but good boys don't cry. And all the time these emotions have been kind of more and more and more denied, and that they are bad. Emotions are bad. I mean, we've all heard, you know, oh my God, oh, she's so emotional. She's just so emotional. And it's supposed to be a bad thing. And the problem is that emotions aren't bad. The way that we learn how to manage them, the way that we learn how to express them, if we haven't learned how to do that, they are going to come out in all sorts of different and unusual kinds of ways. So I like to think of all of us as having our own pressure cooker. And we put stuff into their life experiences, all kinds of things into there. And sometimes the heat underneath gets turned up. And what happens with a pressure cooker when you turn up the heat? Where are the cooks? Where are the cooks in the class here? Yeah, unmute yourself, Jackie.
The food cooks even quicker, and the pressure on the device goes berserk at the top.
And you end up with steam coming out,
yes,
and all
exactly.
kinds of things. And
yes.
what happens then if that pressure valve is faulty? What happens?
It doesn't cook properly inside.
Yeah, and what else?
It explodes.
Yeah. Just like the balloon, yeah? When we don't have a pressure release valve for ourselves, the end result, kaboom. Who's been there before where we've had emotions that have bubbled up and bubbled up and bubbled up, and they've got bigger and bigger and bigger, and something else has happened, and maybe it might even have been just a tiny little thing, that straw that breaks the camel's back, and all of a sudden, boom, we let fly at people, we get aggressive, maybe we end up in fisticuffs, we end up yelling at people that we don't have no reason to get angry at. We do all kinds of interesting and weird behavior that is not really representative of us when our pressure valve is fully working and it can just continue to cook, and we can cook and we can do all sorts of lovely things. And that is what's going on right now for our students and for ourselves. Because, you know, being with friends, oftentimes that's a great way of releasing some of that pressure. Being out on the basketball court with your mates and doing a few hoops, or going for a run, or doing all kinds of activities is a really useful way for a lot of, especially young people, but all of us, to learn how to manage some of these big emotions that build up and build up and build up. And it's kind of like, you know, we have, you know, emotions have weight. Anybody noticed how emotions have different weight? So think about, I don't know, as a kid, I used to be like embarrassed, like all the time. That was my permanent state of being, was embarrassed. But within that whole frame of embarrassment, there is kind of, there's some different weights to things. So, you know, there is uncomfortable. Does that feel very heavy, or is it kind of light? Give me a light, or give me a heavy. It's kind of light, yeah? What about humiliation? Light or heavy? Heavy. It's heavy, right? Compared, and like they're both versions of embarrassed, but one is like, yeah, well, look, I was a bit uncomfortable, and the other one is, oh my God, I was absolutely humiliated. I just wanted the ground to open up so that the floor could just eat me up, and I wasn't there anymore. And that's how, that's the different weights that different emotions have for us. And it becomes that we have to create this kind of balancing act between heavy emotions and light emotions, and how we can actually manage our energy and our balance in that different way. So let me just, I saw somebody put a message here. Wilmy said, happiness is light and makes you want to skip. Definitely. Sadness makes you want to lie down and crawl into bed. Who else feels like that? We've got one person shaking their head. Would you like to come off mute and let me know what you're thinking?
Well, sometimes when I'm happy, I'd like to stay on my bed doing nothing.
And just be in that happiness bubble?
Yeah.
Perfect. That's absolutely perfect. I mean, your version of skipping may be living in your bubble of happiness. Maybe you're skipping on the inside, yeah? We can all skip on the inside. There are all things that make us skip joyfully, either on the outside or on the inside. And that depends on all of us. People that are very outwards, like me, I think I may have Italian in me somewhere. For me, yes, when I'm happy, I am dancing around the kitchen, I am singing, I'm laughing. And when I have those times and those moments where I'm in that sad kind of space, feeling sad or lonely, then yeah, like on the couch, under a blanket, in bed, under the doona, like don't answer the door, don't come near me. I just want to have some time by myself, yeah? And that is where we have this difference in weight of different emotions and how we can express all of those. You'll remember near the start of this, we talked about the 5,000 different emotions that there are. 5,000, right? Who wants to have a look through the dictionary at what all the 5,000 emotions are? Hands up. Ooh. Jules, you'd like to. Oh my God, are you a library nerd? Well, we've got two. Helen, you want to do it as well? But 3 of you. Awesome. Maybe you guys can jump on the dictionary and start writing a massive list for me. I have created a cheats guide because I don't know, I mean, I'm not like you, Jules, or I can't remember, Helen or Abdul. I'm not interested in spending my whole weekend or more flicking through volumes of the Oxford Dictionary looking for potential words of emotion. So I have created a cheat sheet because when we have some specificity, and I really hate that word because it's just a hard word to say. I don't even want to think about how you spell it. But when we get really specific about what our emotions are, as I said, remember it's a difference between, you know, if you're embarrassed, it's a difference between being uncomfortable or being humiliated. When we're talking about, you know, I was embarrassed, well, that doesn't really give us any specific detail about what it was, how heavy was that emotion for this person. And when we're talking to our students, when we're talking to ourselves, when we're talking to other people that we care about, we can kind of start understanding if they have some more language around emotions, about how heavy those emotions are for us. So thinking about, you know, a number of you said that you are struggling at the moment with or feeling at the moment fear. Yeah, there was a number of you that had fear and uncertainty. And if you think about fear, there's also this big range in that as well between, well, you know, maybe I was feeling kind of timid, or maybe I was feeling completely terrified. And both of them are fearful, but they both have really different weights about them. So I just don't know, there were so many emotions. Yeah, Helen, there are heaps of them. I know. Who knew that there were 5,000 different emotions, right? And Jules, thank you. You volunteered to go through the dictionary over the weekend. Love you. No, she says, no, I have not. I will not. But there are 5,000, actually 5,000 plus emotions. And all of them have this little tweak of intensity about them, this little tweak of different meaning about them. And the more precise we get with our language, the more we can express what those emotions are. Yeah. So is it, as I said, is it that I'm feeling timid, or is it that I'm feeling terrified? what is the different levels? And in between that, obviously there is a whole bunch of different other language words that can help us get some more clarity for ourselves around what it is that we're feeling. And why is that important? I hear you asking. Yes, I'm sure I heard you here. I'm sure I heard you asking that. The reason it's so important is because when we nail the word that represents our emotions, it means that they don't float around unattached, just floating around in our head, waiting for us to do something with. That was a big statement then. Let me explain a bit more. For most of us, we have an event that happens in our life, any event. Let's be topical. Let's go COVID-19 happens, yeah? And from that, we make a story about how that impacts us personally, yeah? We all have different impacts from what COVID-19 is doing for us. And for some of us, it means different things to different people because we're all different humans, yeah? So we all respond to things differently as well. So when COVID-19 comes along, we then make a story about what that means to us personally. For some of us, it may be that, well, my life feels like it's over, my job is finished, I can no longer do what I was doing before, I can't see my friends, I can't see my family, I can't do anything. And this is the story that we make. And everybody's story will be slightly different. When we don't have clarity around what our emotions are, they end up going bigger and bigger and bigger. As our story about what COVID-19 does, how that impacts us. So as our story gets bigger about how things are impacting us, our emotions get bigger. But when we don't have the language to be able to explain what those emotions are, they kind of just end up being, well, I'm frightened, or I'm uncertain. When we have some real clarity around what it is, what the language is of the feelings that we're feeling, maybe it is that right now you are feeling terrified. It's a whole different feeling than, well, I'm feeling frightened. Even that, I'm feeling fear, or I'm feeling absolutely terrified to go even outside my front door. Having the clarity around, will you please share your cheat sheet with us? Most definitely, most definitely. When I send out a copy of the recording, if you want to have a look at that, I will also send out this cheat sheet as well. It's something that I have absolutely used, printed out, put on my fridge at home, and I almost can't explain to you how helpful it is. It's several, let me have a look here. It's kind of a couple of pages like this. So I haven't gone into the details of 5,000 because it's just too many and I'm lazy. But it's certainly enough words and enough different bits and pieces that you can get an idea of some of the different language patterns and words that there are that you can use. Can you guys see that easily? I'm just gonna, so there's all sorts of different things like, let me have a look here. Where are some good ones? Am I sad, depressed, dejected? Am I feeling despair, despondent, disappointed, discouraged, disheartened, forlorn, heavy-hearted, hopeless, melancholy, unhappy, or wretched? And all of these words have that slightly different, I don't know what the right word is, but there's slightly different meaning and slightly different meaning to us. With some of my private clients, what I've done with them is got them to have a look at, have a think about what their emotions were for the past 24 hours, same as what I did with you. And then got them to watch like a Britain's Got Talent, Australia's Got Talent video. You know how they have the ones of the kid who's had a really hard life and comes on stage and belts out this tune, and everybody's like tears running down their face, and mum and dad are there on the side, and everybody's hugging and loving, and the gold buzzer goes off, and there's, ah! And then I've got them to have a look at the cheat sheet to see how many emotions that they actually felt, they actually responded to. And as you get more specific with your language of your emotions, it means that you actually, it was phenomenal in that you actually start, the words will just start jumping off the page. Because, well, yes, in that moment, I wasn't feeling confused. I was feeling mystified, because that's the word that was exactly the right word for what I felt right at that moment. And when you have this language around what it is that you're feeling, it allows you to take the event, take the story that you've created, add the emotions, and know what they are. And all of a sudden, it's like you have this freedom that comes from it, because you're no longer in this space of, well, it sort of feels like, I don't know, it's sort of like fear, but it's not really fear. And maybe it was, I don't know. It allows you to have this freedom of understanding where you are in the world, what your thoughts are, what your emotions are. And when you have clarity around that, it gives you the most amazing freedom. So more than happy to share that cheat sheet with you guys as well. And for you guys to share it with your residents, your students, your family, yourselves, because that's exactly how powerful it is. So any questions from you guys at the moment? I know that time is like belting along, and I'm curious, what questions do you guys have about any of the stuff we've spoken about, or anything else? And while you do that, I'm going to take a sip of water.
So Anita, are you talking about us encouraging residents to identify their emotions with specific language? And
absolutely, yes.
Are you sharing a technique or a tool to do that? Or would you do it through the list and watching Australia's Got Talent?
Yeah. The list is a really, really useful way of accessing the language of emotions. And as I said, like, the list that I have is most definitely not comprehensive. It's not 5,000 emotions long. But with having that language, and as I said, feel free to share it with your students, with your residents as well. Having them, even just, again, having it on the fridge, doing something with it so that they can start recognizing what their own emotions are, is incredibly powerful. It's something also that I've included in, I've created a couple of online workshops, online courses. That, is it okay if I share with you about them now, or yeah? Because I've created a couple of online courses that a number of properties here in Melbourne, we're just starting to, actually some in Queensland, here in Australia as well, doing some work where these online courses, it's short 15-minute videos as a lesson, so that they can understand a bit more about what's happening around fear, around uncertainty, around a lot of those emotions that you guys were talking about, particularly fear and emotion and stress and anxiety, helping students to understand some of the human behaviour stuff behind that. What I've recognised is that in the work that I do, a lot of people think that they are the only ones who are feeling whatever it is that they're feeling. They think that they're the only ones to have this emotion or that emotion or this feeling or this thought or this question floating through their head. And what I can tell you, I've coached thousands of people, and there is nothing that people tell me now that surprises me or shocks me or anything anymore. Whatever the weirdest thought is that you've had in your head, I've probably heard it 60 times already. So, you know, just to let you all know that you're also not weird. You're also pretty normal people, I think. But you see, students oftentimes don't have that understanding. But also, I mean, I coach adults. I've coached, you know, CEOs to students to champion dancers to you name it. And the same questions keep coming up for a lot of people around, you know, am I weird to be thinking this? So this course is designed to help people, students, understand themselves, understand what their thinking is, that they are pretty normal, that once you understand what's going on for you, and some tools and techniques, super simple. I'm not one who likes to do anything that's too complicated. You'll notice that there aren't any slides. We haven't done any fancy stuff. Like, this is, to me, if it's not simple and it's not something that can be understood easily, why am I even doing this? So they're short 15-minute lessons. Some of them have got handouts if people want to do some extra work. And there's also links, some extra links for additional content if people want to explore these topics a bit more. So there's things like covering ranting self-talk. Big one for a lot of, to say students, but a lot of humans. That was certainly something that I had a lot of challenges with all my life. Dealing with that one question, I can't remember who it was, but somebody was talking about in the feelings that they're feeling right now, that there was just a lot of stuff going through their head all the time. And for a lot of us, there will be a constant question or a constant statement, something that just keeps going around and around and around all day, all night. Anybody else having that right now? Yeah. And it may be, when the hell is this going to be over? It might just be as simple as that, but this is the question that keeps you up at night. And so the course covers 28 different topics. There's a whole lot of stuff there. So some properties, some places I'm working with are delivering this content every second day to their students, drip feeding it every second day, so that it covers the next 2 months worth of mental well-being stuff without calling it mental well-being. Yeah, because as I said, I don't talk about mental well-being because it's just too scary. So we talk about the things that make up good mental health, as opposed to what, you know, mental health and keeping sane and all kinds of heavy language like that, which if you guys are using, please stop, because it's frightening people away. Yeah. I remember I did a workshop with a student accommodation property, and this was, I think, last year or the year before, and we desperately wanted the property not to call it something to do with mental health. They decided that that was a good idea to do. We had one person turn up for the class, didn't know what it was, for the workshop, didn't know what it was, and the resident advisor said, oh, it's about mental health, and this person just walked straight out again. So, yeah, literally walked straight out again. So mental health, if you're using that language, I encourage you to stop using it if you can. Look at something else. Look at how we can make for well-being rather than mental anything. So the course covers, as I said, covers these 28 different topics, all short, 15-minute or less, kind of between 10 and 15 minutes. It includes things like creating healthy habits, creating structure. Oh heavens, there's so many topics that my brain's gone numb with them all. But I'll send you the link for that as well, if that's okay. The courses individually are, I think I've got a retail price at like $47 for each of the 2 courses. But because I'm doing this with a number of, properties that have got hundreds of people, thousands of people, then I'm doing a bulk purchase deal for them. And that, depending on the number of people and blah, 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 but between $6 and $10 per person, that covers like 2 months worth of content. So it's a really inexpensive way of providing students with useful bite-sized chunks of stuff that they can do in the privacy of their own bathroom if they want to. It's, short enough that you can watch these videos, learn some techniques, learn some tools while you're having breakfast. So if you guys are okay, I'd actually like to share one of the exercises that's around dealing with managing stress and anxiety. Would that be okay? And let's do it together, yeah? Because I know that there is a lot of us, lots of thumbs up, thank you. I know there are a lot of us at the moment that are feeling some anxiety bubbling up within us as well. And if that's not managed for us, then it means that the students that we look after as well feel it, will notice it. That's the truth. Kids, students, and animals are very, very intuitive and get it when we are not doing well. Yeah. So let's do a quick exercise. It's a really short one, and it's one of the ones that I put in one of the video lessons as well, which I think is just it's short, it's sharp, and it's a very easy thing to remember. I call it the 5 Ps, because there are 5 Ps in it. That's why. That's a very good reason why. So the first P is purpose. So thinking about anxiety that you're feeling at the moment. And if you want to go ahead and close your eyes, this might be an easier one to do with your eyes closed. It's entirely up to you. I promise I won't come around and tickle you or anything, so that's good. So the first P is purpose. So thinking about your anxiety right now, and it might be a low feeling of anxiety, it might be a bubbling feeling, whatever it is, whatever that feeling is, I'd like you to have a think about what the higher purpose of that anxiety is. Everything that comes our way, everything, every feeling, every emotion is a gift to us. We only feel emotions when we are alive and kicking. So everything that comes to us is a gift. So if you had to have a think about what the higher purpose of this anxiety is right now, this feeling that is bubbling up inside of you, have a think about what that might be. The higher purpose. For some of you, it might be to know that you are alive and breathing. For some of you, it might be to recognize that this stress, this anxiety that you're feeling, this feeling, is to let you know that it's time to switch off, turn the news off, to unwind. Maybe the higher purpose of this feeling that you're feeling is something different altogether. Just go ahead and notice what the higher purpose of that feeling is. And then when you've got that, the second P is posture. What's a posture that represents this higher purpose for you? Now, for some of you, it might be relaxing your posture, relaxing your shoulders even more. Maybe for some of you, it's relaxing your face muscles and just feeling kind of a bit more in control of what's going on for you. So whatever that posture is, I'd like you to really exaggerate it. So if you need to sit up straighter, do that, whatever it is that is going to create that purpose in your posture. That's the second P. The third P is presence. So bring that feeling of that higher purpose to you as you are right now. Bring it to that feeling of that higher purpose, to this present moment. While you're in this beautiful posture, exaggerated posture, feel the presence of that higher purpose. And then the 5th P is picture. Create a picture in your mind's eye of that higher purpose. Whatever that higher purpose is, just create a picture of it in your mind's eye. And make that picture as bright and intense and vibrant as possible. And then the 5th and final P is practice. This is a great exercise to do 5 or 6 times a day. And it can be a really great thing to set up as a habit for yourself during particular times of the day. Because if you do it as soon as you wake up, before you go to bed, when you have breakfast, when you have lunch, and when you have dinner, this is already 5 times in the day that you are recalling for yourself what this higher purpose is. You are creating the posture of that, because when you change your physiology, the way you hold yourself, you change your psychology as well. So changing your posture and making your posture fit your higher purpose, and then bringing that feeling to the present moment as well, and creating a picture of that higher purpose. So practicing this 5 or 6 times a day, building that into a habit over those times during the day, breakfast, lunch, dinner, when you wake up and when you go to sleep, also builds in structure for you and builds in structure for all of us. Because right now, structure is something that is not really coming to us very easily. Everything has changed, and that means that structure has changed as well. Now, if you haven't already, just take that picture, that what you've got, and bring it into your heart. Make it a part of you. Take a nice deep breath in all the way down into your belly. And then all the way out. And one more. And all the way out. That's it. And then just open up your eyes again if you haven't already. How does everybody feel after that, apart from Jules wanting to now go to sleep? Let me know how you feel. Refreshed? How else are we feeling? Focused? Beautiful. Refreshed and relaxed. And you see how you can be in control of this, relaxed, awake, good to reflect, ready to roll. Woohoo! Relaxed, absolutely. And look, this is a very quick exercise. I took you through the longer version of it so that I could explain all the different steps. But this is something that you individually can do through these 5 Ps. What was the first one? Purpose, posture, presence, picture, and practice. Very simple, 5 things, 5 on your hand. So these are the simple kinds of exercises that I include in the courses, because I know how useful they are. They are practical, they're short. It's not something that you have to go and research to find out and spend a lot of time or a lot of energy. These are just super quick exercises that help build a connection to ourselves. You notice that you're all feeling relaxed, refreshed, focused, because the focus was moved away from whatever the problem was and to whatever the higher purpose of that problem was. And when we start asking ourselves better questions, we get better answers. And that's what these courses are all about as well, is helping us to look at the world from a different perspective, look at life from a different perspective, understand ourselves better, and live better. Who doesn't want that? I want that too, right? All of this stuff, all of the stuff that's in the courses is stuff that I have either done personally, I used to be the shyest person in the entire universe and probably the most fearful. And so it's either things that I have done myself or things that I have helped my clients with one-on-one as well. Now, I've just noticed that we are at 6 o'clock, but I have 2 more questions for you. Is that okay if we go over for a minute? Yeah, excellent, thank you. What is really helpful for me is, and for everybody here, is for you guys to let me know what your one biggest takeaway from today's class, from what today's class was, because everybody looks at things from a really different perspective. So if you can either type in or come off mute and let me know what was your one biggest takeaway, then I will share them with the rest of the class and see if I can add some extra value there for you as well. And I'm going to have a sip while you do that.
Hi everyone. Hi Anita. You guys can hear me, Volmi over here.
Yeah.
Really great session. Thank you so much. Breath of fresh air from some of the other sessions that I've been watching. I'm going to quote you on this, and I really like these 2, and these are my main takeaways. The first one, emotions are gifts because we are alive. I love that. As people say, we're too emotional or those kinds of things. And then really liking ask better questions to get what I'm at for today and really see where I can apply that. So thank you, Anita.
Oh, that is such a pleasure. That is such a pleasure because, you know, if we ask ourselves poor questions, we have to give poor answers. If we ask ourselves better quality, higher quality questions, then we have to start looking for higher quality answers. And so this is a really important thing. And through the course, through both of the courses, there's a lot of high quality questions that I put into there because, you know, there's a lot of negativity that is floating around everywhere. I don't know if you guys are feeling it all as well, but there is a lot of negativity. There is a lot of stuff on social media and the news. And, you know, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but like the news bulletins that come in the ad breaks are now called news alerts. They never used to be called news alerts, and now it's an alert because we've got to talk about things because it's an alert and we've got to be alert all the time. And even the language, you said, like the language is so important. So having better, higher quality questions where we can look at things from different perspectives rather than from a low quality, low sort of energy perspective. Let's start looking at things from a higher quality question. So thank you, Wilmy. That is a great takeaways. Naming emotions helps to work with them. Yes, such an important thing. You guys will get this once I send this cheat sheet over to you. Like, use it, try it out. Let me know what it does for you because it is so incredibly powerful. Let me just scroll the screen because I've just lost a couple of comments. I don't express all my emotions. Yeah, and that's the problem. They end up in the pressure cooker, in the pressure cooker, in the pressure cooker, in the pressure cooker. And then the valve, if it gets a little bit stuck or a little bit broken, then this is not a good way to live. And it's a way that a lot of us live, that we repress, we hold back, we don't say the things that we want to say, and then all of a sudden, blah, that happens. Yeah, didn't mean to frighten you if I did, sorry. But this is what happens, and I know because I've done it for a lot of my life as well. And now, coming from a place of more honesty with myself and with others also means that I'm coming from a place of integrity as well, and allowing, you know, dealing with emotions when they are small is easy, rather than, you know, when they get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, then you feel that they are overwhelming. And this is when, as I said, this is when students and people make, you know, permanent decisions to temporary problems. And this is what we want to try and avoid. Let's have a look here. Oh, let me just lost again because you guys are writing heaps, which I love. Emotions are here to help us understand what's going on in the world. around us and how it reflects within us blew my mind. Yes, this is exactly what emotions are for. They are here, they are messengers for us. They're not happening to us, they are happening for us. And when we recognize that, we can start making different decisions with how we look at the world, how we manage ourselves, how we respond and interact with everybody around us. Thinking about how different emotions have different weights and how hard it is to keep the balance. Yes, and it can be very hard, especially when there is so many heavy, weighty emotions that are going on right now. Some of the other stuff that confidence hackers provide, and now we can do this globally because of all of this stuff that's going on where we're all global now, is, you know, we do stuff like Laughter Club. I have a lady that works with me that is like a laughter yoga teacher. There is no yoga involved in it. It is all about learning how to laugh and laugh for no good reason. And it's a really great way to start adding some of that lightness that helps you skip on the inside or on the outside. And I have this crazy weird idea in my head that, you know, we've seen in Italy where people on their balconies are singing together and all that. And I have this picture in my head of student accommodation properties with their doors open. Oftentimes they don't have balconies, but with their door open to the passageway, and just peals of laughter ringing through the corridors rather than fear, rather than that heaviness going on as well. So those kinds of things, meditation classes we offer as well. I have another lady who, she's actually my physio because I think everybody has a bit of this neck from looking at computers and looking at screens. And she does this incredible exercise program that helps students build back the muscles the right way so that their posture is really good. Again, it's something that's building up that positive side of the scales. I've got a guy that I work with now who provides healthy snacks, like yummy, delicious things, healthy snacks rather than chocolate and lollies and stuff like that. And we include some of these cards here called Mindset Magic cards that have got just short tips on them. Like this one is about reframing mess up, so that if you mess up in your life, how do you, short prescription on the back, how do you deal with mess ups in your life? Because we're always going to have them, right? So, you know, we're delivering these to students as well. I've got another guy that I work with who does, you know, LinkedIn profiles and resume writing. And so we can use this time in a way that's useful and that's productive and balance these scales up a whole lot differently. Steps we can do to recenter ourselves. Yes, avoid words such as mental health. Thank you. Please replace it with well-being, mental anything. Let's get rid of it. There's a program that I'm just about to start work on, and I'm calling it May Cause Happiness. Like, let's have a look at what's the positive side of things rather than, you know, mental anything. It's got too much stigma in it. Sam says, understand there are 5,000 emotions. That was new to me. Yeah, that's a big one. This exercise is a good way to help us focus on building structure as we're all going through a period of many current structures being dismantled and changed drastically. Yes, there is no certainty anywhere in the world. I can't even imagine saying that like 4 months ago, that there would be no certainty anywhere on the entire planet. It's the most weird and bizarre thing ever. And helping us to understand what's going on behind that uncertainty, why it is that, you know, people were hoarding toilet paper and people are still hoarding food. It helps us, you know, when we understand the difference between how humans need certainty and uncertainty. And if we don't have enough certainty, we can't manage the uncertainty. Helps us to understand why people are hoarding toilet paper. Weird and true. Abdul's put a link there of the Atlas of Emotions. Yeah, absolutely. I might use this to explore more. You get 2 thumbs, most definitely. In regards to the negativity, I'm feeling really positive about working from home. Awesome, but I feel bad for feeling good. So normal. I know positivity can be contagious, but I also make people resentful, especially when people are not in secure jobs and safe homes like I am. Yes, how many of us, you know, in Australia, we've had you know, a lot of bushfires and bad things like that going on as well. And there is such a thing as, you know, like survivor guilt. And it's a very similar thing here where people, you know, like the whole neighborhood's houses will be burnt and one house stays. And that person has so much guilt and shame because their house stayed and everybody else's house burnt down. And this is what's also going on for a lot of us personally, that, you know, we're thriving in all of this kind of madness while other people around us are struggling and failing and flailing in a really, really big way. So what we can do about that is build ourselves, be okay with ourselves first. We can't pour from an empty cup. We can't give what we don't have. So learning to be okay with being okay. You know, there's a whole lot of, you know, it's okay to not be okay. It's actually okay to be okay too. It's really okay to be okay. And, you know, there's a big difference between rubbing people's nose in the fact that you've got a job and you've got a house and everything is good, and being in a space of humility and gratitude for where your life is at the moment. Yeah. The one thing that we need more than anything right now, love and gratitude in whatever forms they come. This is exactly what we need. So that would be my antidote for you, anybody who's in that space that's feeling that right now. The same as Jules, understanding the different weights of emotion for different people and the freedom of understanding, processing, expressing, and seeking clarity via precise language. You guys knocked me out of the park. You guys have done so well, because the weight of emotions is so different for every single person on the planet. And the way that we understand a word is not necessarily representative of the way somebody else will understand that word as well. So you guys rock, and thank you for bringing up all of these things as well, because I think everybody's comments here, can we agree that everybody's comments has helped everybody else as well? Yeah, perfect. Can I get you guys to, you know, vanity, can I get you guys to give me just some quick feedback of anything that you would like me to do differently or change for the next time I deliver something like this, because that helps me to help you, to help your students, your residents even more. So that would be really helpful for me. Spontaneous, and that is great. Yes, thank you. You know, I used to use PowerPoint slides when I did things, and then I realized that I really hated them. I really hated making them. And I really, really hated like technology. This way I don't have to touch anything pretty much, and that makes me happy. So that's good. Human connection is the way. Thank you. It's good there was no PowerPoint presentation. Yay! Is everybody over death by PowerPoint already? Yeah. In my workshops that I do in person, when we were doing them in person, I started off doing PowerPoints and then ended up going out the door. So to me, this is a much more beautiful experience for me as well. So it kind of gets selfish because I just like it to be beautiful for me too. Very helpful example, isn't it? Thank you, thank you, thank you. You guys rock. Thank you for being here. I'm going to give you this and also a big round of applause because you guys didn't have to be here. I'm incredibly grateful that you are. I hope that this is helpful to you for helping yourselves. One of the most important things is we need to help ourselves so that we can help others. Really important. We have to fill our own cup so that we can pour from that cup as well. I will send you the message, this of all of the different emotions. Thank you for your extra time, for giving me these extra 15 minutes. I love trying to stop talking, but I generally can't. So thanks very much. I'm going to say to you, my normal closing now is be well and be loved, because love is what cures fear. It is the absolute antidote. So be well, be loved, and I look forward to talking to all of you guys later on. Bye.